Hey everybody, this is Lauren Wilde, your podcast host for the Lauren Wilde Project, Field Notes for Earth School. I'm so excited to have you back for part 2 of this Gemini-Uranus mini-series. I'm excited to talk about all the things that are changing and also acknowledge today is July 1st of 2026, which means Jupiter is now officially in Leo. Cue all the sparkles. I can't wait to talk about the summer astrology. So let's go ahead and get down into this change, this awakening energy that's coming in summer of 2026 in this podcast. Let's go. All right, everybody. I'm so excited to have you back for part 2 of this mini series on the great mental liberation. So this is going to be a teaching podcast. This episode here is going to be a lot of just kind of like laying the foundation of what is Gemini and what is Uranus? What are these energies? How long is this lasting? Like what's happening here? And also talking about how this is going to impact you personally, depending on your birth chart's natal rising sign. So let's go ahead and dive into it. For those of you guys that are new here, my name is Lauren Wilde. I'm a professional astrologer. I'm also a 500-hour yoga instructor and teacher of feminine spirituality and consciousness. I'm very, very, very committed in this lifetime, devoted to the rising of the divine feminine matriarchal consciousness on this planet, to find a balancing force both within and without each individual and therefore the collective. So I get into this stuff and I teach astrology as a lens of awareness. I'm not a person that believes astrology is like your fate. I believe that astrology is the language of consciousness. Consciousness is to make you aware. And then sovereignty, which is the backbone of everything that I teach, is to help you understand your choices, to help you understand what narratives do you want to keep playing out? What stories do you want to keep telling yourself? What are you going to double down on? What kind of opportunities are you going to allow in? What are you going to address within your ego that is going to expand you out so that you can live a life that you actually want to live and not on what I like to call factory settings, societal conditioning and expectations. So why this transit of Uranus entering Gemini is so important is because it's all about that. It's all about changing the narrative. It's all about asking yourself, what story am I telling myself? And how am I going to change it? All right. So that's our little touch point into it. Let's go ahead and discuss. So I'm calling this period the Great Mental Liberation, or the Great Timeline Shift. Okay. This transit, it actually started in July, on July 1st. So 1 year ago today, in 2025, and it got up to 1 degrees Gemini before it stationed retrograde, and it went back into late degrees of Taurus. It got there into 25 degrees of Taurus, and it finally crossed what we call ingressed 0 degrees of Gemini and plans to stay here. So now it's fully in Gemini on April the 25th of 2026. And, before we get into anything, like just take a moment, look at your calendar, look at the photos on your phone, like what was happening? Did you have any kind of great awareness? Did anything start to change at that time? Because these transits will really, especially in the very beginning, like the early degrees, are going to show you what this is all about and how it's going to transpire over the next 7 years. So this transit, like I said, started in 2025, and it's going to carry till 2033. So, you want to like give yourself a moment to look at, spring of 2018 to spring of 2026. That was when Uranus was in Taurus, and like what changed for you. And yes, like everybody's like literally everything, like there was such a period of divorce and people having this big deconstruction of their traditional faith systems. And, the economy changed and the housing market changed and our values as a society changed. And that's because Taurus rules all those things. And Uranus is the great awakener. So now Uranus is going to be in Gemini for the next 7 years. And it's just a different energy. So just to kind of like touch base, Uranus is like I said, the great awakener. He's also the great disruptor. He's a liberator and he does it through chaos. He's here to innovate us and he rules our nervous systems. So Uranus strikes like a lightning bolt. If you've ever heard Eureka, that's Uranus. Literally, electricity is ruled by Uranus. So it also impacts the electrical system inside our bodies, which is a big deal because as we continue to move through this transit, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, which Gemini and Aquarius are both in the very early degrees. These planets are both in the very early degrees of these two air signs, and they trine each other, meaning they go from the same element to the same element, and it's very fluid. It creates very lovely change. And Aquarius is social change, the societal change, and Gemini is mental thought, the stories you tell yourself change. So it's this period of time, especially in 2026, because Pluto and Uranus trine each other in these very early degrees of 0 to 5 degrees, that it is like big positive change that holds for a whole year. And it's very, very supportive to your life, So this is where in synastry you would want to be able to look at like, well, where's Aquarius in my natal chart and where's Gemini in my natal chart? Because that's where you're going to see the most synastry, the most harmonious change in your life. And, quick pause there. I am a professional astrologer. If you're like, Lauren, help me figure this out, I would love to. Make sure you check out the notes below and you can book a one-time reading with me. I always have a new client special. I have a promo and I have a couple of summer promos that you'll see down there as well. All right, back to your scheduled programming. So Gemini is a zodiac sign, whereas Uranus is a planet, okay? And Gemini rules the third house in the housing system of astrology. The housing system and the rising sign is what gives us a sense of how things are going to be impacted in regards to like when something hits your third house, we know that your mind is going to change. Some sort of contracts are going to change. Something in your neighborhood might change. Like you might go through a period of construction in your neighborhood. Your car may change. Things like that, because that's all Gemini. So when we have Uranus enter Gemini, what it's going to change, what it's going to awaken is the mind, our thought process, our communication process, media, language, learning, your ability to storytell, technology, your car. Like your third house is your local transits. It's like literally driving around your neighborhood. So you may actually like change your car if something, was going to happen. But this is where I predict that electric cars really take off because Gemini is transportation ruled by Mercury, like the winged god of transportation and communication. And Uranus is electricity. So it's like electric cars are absolutely going to boom over the next 7 years. I mean, just 1,000,000%. There is going to be exponential growth. And part of that is because of Uranus being in Taurus, which made petrochemical fuels, like these old fossil fuels, because Taurus rules the earth, so expensive. So it's like, of course, we're going to see the rise of electric cars. I'm planning on buying an electric car. So it's meant to, innovate and speed things up. But it's also things like your local communities seeing some sort of change. Your siblings. So like I just found out that my brother is now moving back to Ohio. They've been in Florida and I'm dying to see my nephew more often. And they just told us that they're moving up. They're only gonna be an hour away from us. So like that's a huge deal for me because Gemini also rules particularly brothers. So yes, siblings, but particularly brothers. And then the other thing about it is that Gemini rules duality. So it's really going to be an interesting way of how this 7-year transit is going to bring up conversations about duality. The other thing is that because of the fact that Pluto is in a trine to this, and Pluto rules the underworld, our subconscious thoughts, our collective shadow, and Gemini is like the stories we tell ourselves is, and Uranus's electricity is like, I know this is going to be the time that quantum physics is really going to take a big leap. Understanding the nervous system is going to take a huge leap, like vagus nerve work, somatic work, but especially understanding burnout and the nervous system is going to be a huge deal. Just like I predicted when Uranus moved into Taurus, that the world of somatics and like body-based trauma and understanding that it's not just the mind, it's also how the body stores your trauma, was going to really take a big, it was going to like really launch off over the next, 7 years. And that's when it did, that's when Peter Levine's work of like Waking the Tiger, somatic experiencing, there's somatics here and somatics there. And I'm so happy to see it. But it's like a bigger focus on body. Well, Uranus in Gemini is going to take that to the next level of our minds. A lot of work around, what you believe is what you manifest, understanding the collective and how what you put out, you get back. The stories you tell yourself, the universe is going to mirror back to you. Like that stuff is going to become huge. And why that's so important is because, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is also known as Thoth or the Magus in tarot. And he says, what do you want to create? So this is a really powerful time of creation from your thoughts, especially with Neptune in Aries, that is like really trying to help us become the most authentic, to take responsibility with Saturn in Aries. And it's so much about like reconstructing yourself. That's why I created a program called the Quantum Architect when all of these aspects started to happen last year, is because it's so much about building the identity that you want to embody that is more authentic to you, Aries. And Uranus is going to give that push to change your mind. Because if you can change your mind, you can change your life. Like your mind is what creates your reality. So these kinds of things, about manifestation and quantum shifting and quantum time leaps and all of this stuff, honestly, that I've been yapping about for a very long time, is going to like really land in the collective within the next 7 years. Like we're still in the very beginnings of it. So it's probably not going to be till about 2030 that we really see it taking root. But it's a big thing. So you want to kind of like stop for a moment and think about like 2033. How old am I going to be at that time? So like I'm going to be 47, almost 48. My kids will be graduating high school. Like I will have already had a kid that's like going to college, so it's like, you want to kind of stop and you want to think about like, okay, yeah, like I could definitely see a lot of this happening. So, do me a favor and take a moment to kind of contemplate that. Now, the thing that we have to acknowledge about everything in this dual reality that we live in has a high expression and a lower expression. It has a very light, golden expression and a shadow expression. And some of these things can also look like burnout and massive amounts of AI doing thinking for us, and humanity actually getting dumber and becoming less and less human, like really, really like not going outside, not being a part of the world, only being online, only, digesting things that are like on a television or something audio, and never really making space for the mind to rest, which, leads to burnout culture. And I mean, we've been in burnout culture and late stage capitalism, but it's like a whole new level of burnout. Things are going to speed up because Uranus rules speed. It's literally, Uranus rules the speed of light. And Gemini is also fast moving. So what it's going to do is it's really going to light up the mind. And for those that don't have like any kind of grounding or meditation practice, it can really bring up a lot of anxiety. It can make people feel very ungrounded and unrooted. And that is why, we really need to work on becoming grounded people at this time, or our energy as a collective is just going to become so frenetic because it needs the neutral reference point of the earth, of the human body, to discharge, the negative ions that we build when we get anxious or whatever back down into the earth. Like, think about your body like a lightning rod, right? All of these strikes of awareness and consciousness and opening people's channels. Okay. That's going to open people's third eyes for real. And then how scary that can be, especially if you don't know what the hell is going on. Like, I remember I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in 2015. I had no idea what the hell any of that was. And I thought I was literally dying, and it can be very scary for people like that. So I just want to, say that in a lot of ways, for those of us that are doing this work, one of the most important ways to help society during this period of time is to continue to ask people, like, what's the story you want to tell yourself moving forward? How do you want to change your story? And then the next thing is teaching people how to ground, teaching people how to connect back to the earth, to walk barefoot, to, eliminate negative charge in the body down into the earth where she holds it and transforms it into beauty and life, instead of, just basically passing our electric shock and the frenetic energy in our body from one person to another. And it just, again, creates that like high intensity anxiety and ungrounded feeling. So for me, this is where I know that, like, I'm in the process of writing some new things, but especially around a grounding, like Qigong and meditation. So like my big change has been moving my business from what has been a completely online business pretty much into a physical office and building out a personal physical practice again, is to come back to teaching meditation and yoga and women's circles again in person, to like connect, to be a part of land and my community, third house. So especially in my neighborhood. So you want to just recognize, like, do you feel like your anxiety is going up? And if so, do you have any connection that reconnects you back to the earth or helps you slow down your mind? Those are just some quick checkpoints of how, it will definitely manifest in the body. A couple of other like collective effects that we're probably going to see is like information wars versus like any kind of grounded truth or discernment. Lots of nervous system overwhelm, aka burnout. We are going to see the AI world grow so exponentially fast. We're already seeing like AI data centers trying to be built in people's local neighborhoods, and the war on that already starting. Like, I live in a place where they built a data center and my electricity and my water bill have gone up exponentially. And so, we're like, tax the billionaires, like they need to be paying for this. This is not something that taxpayers want to pay for. There should be, just like there is in school, or in our local taxes, like we all have to vote to get a school levy. It should be the same thing for a data center. So it's like definitely things around that. Also just an advancement in technology in general. And the one that is the most interesting to me right now is the decentralization of the education system. Because the third house rules elementary school, and, fifth house is more of like the middle school, high school, but it still is like this very early childhood education tradition that is like, we go to school. And, it's Uranus is here to like break it down in some way. So how we're going to see that manifest. Uranus is also like the tower card of the zodiac signs. He's very trickster, and he is like, your wild card. I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but like Charlie in this one episode, he's like the wild card. Like that's Uranus. You can't really accurately predict how he's going to impact things because of the way that it is like a surprise. It's an awakening. It's very similar to like an eclipse. It's like we can kind of, understand what this might be about, but really and truly what we're looking at is like a total shock. It's a surprise. So, hopefully that helps explain that part. The other thing that could be is like, very dogmatic spirituality becoming much more experiential and psychic in the mind. Like psychic activations are going to grow a lot. People looking for trance states, like things like psychedelics and mushrooms and ayahuasca, to be able to see more than one reality, because Gemini is dualistic. It's like more than one thing existing at a time. Another thing in the world of healing is parts work, absolutely expanding and just kind of like blowing up, like people understanding that they can have more than one version of themselves operating, and that doesn't make them bad or crazy. It's just, how do I understand that like I can wear this hat here and I can wear this hat here? But it definitely is going to bring that kind of energy up. A lot of identity reinvention, like I talked about, of like, what is the story you want to tell yourself? Because the story that you tell yourself is the reality that you create, period. If you're interested in learning that stuff, check out my work, because it's all about identity-led reinvention. But the aspect here is it's as simple as, what is the story that I've been telling myself my whole life? Who told me that story? Why am I playing that story out? And does it align with who I want to be? Does it align with the story that I want to embody? And even just asking yourself those things, beginning to tell yourself a different story, as simple as like, that was my past. That is not what I choose now. I choose to live in this reality. This is who I am. And then you literally just do it. You decide that's who you are, and you take consistent action being that version of yourself. Before anything in reality can confirm it, you just got to step in. Now, where the work really happens is when your ego, which is that previous identity that you unconsciously created to survive reality, starts to push up against it and call you an imposter, or, try to sabotage you, because it's not against you. It's your ego is always going to choose safety. It will always choose safety over any kind of fearful reality or unpredictability. It's always going to choose what is predictable so that we stay alive. So those are some of the things that can come up. People really becoming multi-passionate in their work and the things that they do. Gemini also rules the hands. It's very hobby oriented. So things like that, especially the nail tech industry, could really grow during this time. The collapse of these old authorities around like big quotation marks of truth, like really pushing up against these traditional truths, again, quotation marks, and belief systems. Because again, it's the mind. It's like you're awakening. You're going to see multiple angles and lenses of the stories that have been told. And Uranus is going to make us quite rebellious in challenging it. And overall, the rise of sovereign thinking. This is going to challenge these old stories. And people are going to start to want to think for themselves, which is a whole thing, that's a whole thing. So the last thing that I want to get into for now is going to be your rising signs. So just a quick thing. Like I said, I'm a professional astrologer, but I teach and utilize in my one-on-one practices with people what is called Placidius tropical astrology. But because I don't know each of your individual charts and the exact breakdown, I'm going to use whole sign houses in this particular session to help you understand how some of these things are going to impact you. But if you want to know the exactitudes, the timelines, all of those things, again, please just book a one-time reading with me. Like I said, I got some good summer promos going on. And even if you listen to this when it's not the summer of 2026, I have I usually have some sort of promotion going on that's specific to a certain reading. So check me out. All right. So for Aries rising, this is going to be an activation of your third house. So it's going to impact your mind, how you communicate, something to do with your siblings, your voice, how you are part of your local community, your ability to teach, podcast, write. But overall, it is like this radical rewiring of your nervous system and therefore your thought patterns. Okay, so this is very much about your mind. Okay, so for a Taurus rising, this is going to impact your second house. So the second house is the house of your sense of worth and how you make money. All right, so Uranus is going to impact your finances, your money. It's going to impact your sense of inherent worthiness. It's going to impact your values. And like, that's a big deal because people don't realize like your values show up in every decision that you make, whether you are aware of that or not. Your self-concept, like it's a big deal. So that overall, it's like this kind of financial reinvention and hopefully a liberation from scarcity to really see your value, to really clarify your worth, to charge what you're worth. But I mean, like, that's a lot. That's a lot of internal work. Any kind of work around money and worthiness and your values is going to impact like everything in you, all the way back to your ancestry and the stories that they told themselves about their ability to make money and survive. If you are Gemini rising, it's going to impact your first house. So it's going to impact your identity, like the way that you portray yourself out to the world. Your body might change. Your sense of selfhood, like your identity as an individual. The way you dress is probably going to change. The way that you put yourself out there is probably going to change. But it's truly like where it's going to be an identity reinvention. Like your entire personality is going to go through an evolution over the next 7 years, essentially. If you are Cancer rising, this is happening in your 12th house, which the 12th house is ruled by Pisces and Neptune. It's very subconscious. It is like the underworld of, the psyche. So your subconscious and the patterns in your subconscious are definitely going to get illuminated, brought up to the surface so that they can be identified and healed. This is a big change point. When people have Uranus in their 12th house, it creates an enormous amount of self-awareness and usually a dark night of the soul, meaning like you really got to go in deep because it's not just you, it's also your ancestors. It's the deep subconscious, things that you've probably endured in multiple lifetimes, because the 12th house is also the house of self-sabotage and self-abandonment. It's also the house of imprisonment and hospital stays. So it's like, it could be this very deep healing period of time. Your spirituality can really come online. Your psychic awakening can come online. Your dreams could become like absolutely epic, but they are hidden truths like deep, deep down that are going to come up to the surface and be exposed. And therefore it's going to require a lot of shadow work, a lot of that more deep psyche kind of work. If you are Leo rising, this is your 11th house. So it's going to impact your friend circle. You could definitely have a radical change in friendships, but also life mission. Like, sometimes I see this in people's charts where this is a time where they were deep in like some sort of spiritual, like church kind of mission-based something. But then by the end of it, they're like full-on humanitarians that have nothing to do with like a religious organization. So like it's a very humanitarian house, but it rules your community. It rules your ability to facilitate large communities and play, have an audience. It also rules your dreams in regard to like your hopes and wishes for this life. And again, like I said, a radical change in your friend groups. They will change for sure. You could really start to bring in more eccentric kind of friends, unique people, unique missions that all of a sudden you want to work with because, it's Uranus is visionary. It sees things before they're there. It's like it rules the future. So it's very much about like getting out ahead of things and being more progressive and being more futuristic instead of like right here and right now. It's like more so about thinking about our descendants, like the next group of people that are going to inherit this earth. And what does that mean to each person, right? For Virgo rising, this is your 10th house. So this is a big one. It means it's definitely going to impact your reputation. You know, like you're going to change in some way around your reputation. Your career is probably going to change. And you will take on a more public role. You're going to take on more responsibility of some sort. You're definitely going to be more visible in some way. And your work is most likely going to change. And that means, like, you know, whenever I see Gemini in the 10th house, it means multiple streams of income. So you may find that you're working 2 jobs or even more than that by the end of it. Libra rising, this is going to happen in your 9th house. So this is your big beliefs. This is the house of dogma. So like what you actually believe is going to be impacted a lot. It can also be like your philosophy on life, your spirituality for sure, and teaching. This is the house that's ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius. You could go on some long quests, and they could be internal quests. They could also be long distance international travel that really change the way that you see the world, and breaking some sort of inherited belief system. If you're Scorpio rising, this is going to hit your 8th house. So this is a big one for Scorpio risings, guys. Like you may face, you know, very intense transformation around your sexuality. You may, you know, come in thinking that you are straight and realize like, no, you're gay as hell. Like I said, it's a 7-year transit and it's shocking, right? You may also experience debt, you know, or some sort of like buying of a house, selling of a house. And like whatever happens in the very beginning is going to, again, like I said, it's going to kind of name the area of your life that you're working to change and transform. So whatever happens in this early, like first 2 years is going to tell you a lot about that. So you could get in some sort of debt. You could deal with creditors or something like that. So Scorpio risings, please be careful about your investments. But you could also become very wealthy in this period of time if you do it right. Meaning like you recognize, like, don't, you know, expand out all your credit cards, like focus on things that are going to get you a very quick return on investment. Don't be impulsive. Like that's just a big one with Uranus. But it's also about psychology and the shadow and the arcana, like deep, occult kinds of things like tarot and astrology and things like that. You may get into all of that. Sag rising, 7th house. As a Sag rising, I will tell you that there definitely has been like some change in partnerships. I got married and I like really know that I married my soulmate. Like I feel so locked in. There's things that are changing. Technically, my ascendant is 13 degrees. So I won't see Uranus cross into my 7th house of relationships, until a couple of years from now. But it's happened in my 6th house of work where I now have, a change of location for my office. And that one's a big one. But if you do, then this is a change in partnership styles. You may have been single and all of a sudden you are locked into some sort of relationship, or you may be longtime partnered and realize you're like, I want a divorce. Uranus severs things. It changes things so that they can't go back. But also bringing very important people in that I like to call mirrors, but it's a radical change in the way that you love, you partner, you collab. You might even build a one-on-one kind of like, you know, mentorship kind of practice or something like that at this time as well. Capricorn rising is your 6th house. So this is your health routines and work systems, your nervous system, some sort of work-life reinvention. It's also the house of debts. So, you know, this is a house of like buying properties, renting properties, having some sort of debt reworking. I definitely feel this. Like I've paid off, my husband and I have paid off like almost $45,000 in debt since April. So just like so much change to kind of like reset our foundations. And like that has been a huge thing in the 6th house for me. So you guys may recognize that you feel like you need to do a bunch of that work. I will just, kind of let you know that that's a part of it. But you're definitely going to want to see some sort of systems in your life, your routines, things like that may change. And Capricorn rising does not do well without a routine. Aquarius rising is your 5th house. So it could definitely bring children into your life. It's also the house of grandchildren. So you may see things like that. You may also take a passion and turn it into an entrepreneurial job or opportunity, because the 5th house rules entrepreneurship. It's also creativity and romance. It's like the house of fun. It's like, the theater house. So you may find yourself getting into some form of self-expression, like, acting, singing, art, therapy, things like that. Like I love the 5th house because my moon's in the 5th house. So it's a very fun and creative kind of awakening house with Uranus. And then Pisces rising, last but not least, if you are Pisces rising, then this is like a change of home. It's also like a change of your ancestry, your emotional roots, and redefining what does family mean to you? What does belonging mean to you? And what kind of foundations are you in? So, the Pisces rising, they are definitely trying to redesign, like, what does home mean to me? What does stability mean to me when everything is changing? So I hope that those things are helpful for you guys and help put some things into a better understand for you guys. But it is a massive timeline shift for humanity. It is also a time of mental sovereignty, but also the age of overstimulation and burnout. So just, try to feel into those things. Take some time to look back and consider some of the questions I asked. But number one, just to close out this session, which is asking yourself, what is the story that I've been telling myself? And is that the story that I actually want to embody? Or do I want to tell a new story? And if so, what? What is the story? Who am I in this story? It has to be identity led, because it is you and who you be that creates your reality. Okay. So I'm gonna leave you guys there with that. Like I said, if you are interested in this work and you're like, I want to learn this and I want support, I want to like lean all the way into this, check out my work, guys, laurenwildco.com. All my stuff is on my website. And if you feel led to really understand this shift and this change for you, I haven't even gotten to talk about Jupiter in Leo or Mars that just entered Gemini. I haven't talked about the eclipses yet, which is coming. I can't wait to do that. That's my next podcast episode, is going to be about the astrology, from July to January, because, in my beginning of the year webinar, I told all my students and the people that came, like, 2026 is a year that's split in half. There are 2 years in 1 year. It is, January to June, and then it is July to December. And today is the beginning of Q3. And if you are wanting to see change in the midpoint of the year, I would love to work with you. So book a reading with me, continue listening here, find me on Patreon or social media, check out my body of work. And until then, I will see you guys next time. Ciao. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode today. I'm feeling super juicy and alive, sharing this info and these field notes for Earth School with you guys. If you are looking for a way to connect deeper to what my work is and the opportunities that I offer, again, make sure you check out my website. It's Lauren Wild with an E on the end, co.com. And you can see, especially if you're local to the greater Dayton, Ohio area, I've got in-person events coming back starting this month on July 11th. And we'll be adding more to my calendar as time goes on. I've also, like I said, got these summer promos going on for one-time readings, and my new offering, my flagship offer that I've been working on for over 8 years. So Magic is now launched and open and ready to take on students for the fall semester. Make sure you check me out on social media at I am Lauren Wild. There's always an E on the end, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.